So thank you very much to all of you for being here. Good afternoon, and for the organizers also to have scheduled this session on statistics. So as you said, I'm head of unit in the European Commission dealing with research, and I'm heading a unit dealing with the interface between science and society, which covers many subjects, including gender equality issues. So first, I would like to a little bit give a context of what is it that we are doing in the European Commission in relation to gender equality in research and innovation. And I would like to mention that we have three main objectives. We have the objective of promoting gender equality in researchers' careers at all levels. We have the objective of promoting gender balance in decision-making bodies in all positions in research performing organizations, universities, and also the integration of the gender dimension in the content of the research and innovation. So this is both sex and gender analysis. And since we have been doing this for a few years already, of course, this is a manifestation and expression of some broader policy objective in the European Union, that is the non-discrimination for reasons of sex or gender. That is really a core value. So it's in the treaties, since always has been in the treaties. We have been working on this since many years, and at the beginning, it was also the case in some of the places, we were focusing on empowering women, training women, and so on, and the focus has shifted. Now we are really moving more to promoting institutional change. For instance, we support the adoption by research performing organizations and also by research funding organizations of the adoption of gender equality plans. This has been very successful. We have been funding, on this slide is slightly not updated, we have been funding over 130 organizations, universities and research performing organizations for them to give gender equality plans. We are not very prescriptive. We have noticed that if we set the objective of that this organization should have gender equality plans without giving any indication of what the content should be, only that is enough to really improve the situation. And we have been funding over 20 projects, and until now we're spending on this project over 45 million euros. So we are also in my unit collecting statistics already for 15 years on gender equality in research innovation. And of course, since we started long ago, even long before I was in the unit, I am in the unit, the statistics that are being released every 3 years have been evolving. So we cover a wide range of subjects, like relative pay, men, women, working conditions, and also success in obtaining research funds. We also look at the situation of women and men in scientific publications and inventorship. And we also lately look at gender dimension in scientific publications and articles. So why are we collecting all this data? Because it's necessary to help build policies by giving a bit of picture of what the situation is. And we also have a dynamic approach so that we can track changes over time in different places in the European Union and associated countries. So we use this data to give recommendations to policymakers at EU level, but also to research performing organizations and other bodies interested in the subject. We have noticed also that these figures are very successful at national level, and they constitute a reference. Of course, at national level, people are looking very much at their national figures, but also they are able to compare their situation with the situation in other countries. So this gives a lot of argumentation power to those trying to promote at national level gender equality in research and innovation. So a little bit quickly, some historical highlights of how the figures came to be. So in the late 90s, there was really felt a big need for having sex-disaggregated data on women in research and science for governments and also the European Union to develop meaningful policies. And the original concept was developed with a group of experts and advisors from member states and associated countries to the EU, the so-called Helsinki group that maybe many of you have heard about. These people that were somehow actually also de facto represented their countries formed a subgroup of statistical correspondents from each country that help us collect the data. You have to understand that there is no legal obligation, like is the case in some other areas of policy in the European Union. So this is all done on a voluntary basis by these people. You have to understand the complexity of the exercise. In She Figures in 2006, we were given data on labor force, patterns of employment across different sectors, and we included also data on glass ceiling index and gender pay gap data. In 2009, we began to break down the data also in addition to gender by age group. We also try to identify the proportions of women at A grade level. And by the way, A grade levels is a concept that was developed at the time at the European level by us because, I'm sure you understand the complexity of the exercise, and I will speak about it later a little bit more. But we are talking about countries that they have different collection mechanisms, different collection actors, different collection scopes, different definitions, different timings. So you understand very much the difficulty on collecting data that is meaningful and aggregated at European level. So in She Figures 2012, we added indicators on mobility of researchers and on work-life balance. And the last She Figures are the She Figures 2015. And this She Figures for the first time try to give a picture of the situation of women and men in scientific publications and inventorship. And we also included gender dimension in scientific articles. Another novelty of the 2015 She Figures is that we publish also the methodology. And here you have two links, and I think the slides will be made available to all of you afterwards. You have two links where you can download the actual data, the She Figures, but also the methodology. This is She Figures handbook. This is the first time we do this, but not the last time. We have the intention of going on publishing our methodology. So as I said, data collection is a very complex exercise, and we need to coordinate a lot of factors that are working on a voluntary basis. So we are coordinating people from member states, from associated countries, at different levels. Sometimes they come from ministries, sometimes they come from statistical offices. We also coordinate collection of data within the European Union and the Commission in particular, our own DG, RTD, Research and Innovation, but also from Eurostat and also DGs like DG Just, who is the main DG working on a horizontal basis across the board on gender equality issues. We also have EU agencies like EIGE, European Institute for Gender Equality, or ERC, that I'm sure you know too. And we also coordinate and are in contact with international organizations, and they are represented here, UNESCO, OECD, and you will be hearing about them more from themselves directly. So, as I said, collecting data is not only collecting data. We have to think about the classification of the system, what we want to cover, what are the definitions, the concepts, are these comparable, how comparable they are, how much we can aggregate them, is this meaningful or not. We have to collect data at unit level, at statistical population level. We have to have reference to the periods, so we have to make sure that the periods are comparable in different collection areas, etc., etc. So we also have to think when we are collecting the data, what is it that we want to do with this data? What is the purpose of this data? And how we're going to share this data with whom? And there are, of course, issues of confidentiality in data treatment. And we have to think also about the release policy, the timing, and the modalities, and how can users access it, and what is going to be the frequency, and accessibility, clarity, and so on. The format of the publication. We have also to check and prove the quality of the documentation and the quality of the methodology. So quality management is very important for us. We pay a lot of attention to quality assurance, quality management and assessment. And then once we have released the data, we also we had already tried to identify the user needs ex ante, but we also check user satisfaction ex post. We check the completeness of the data, the accuracy. We check the samples. As I said, we check the comparability geographically in terms of content and over time, and the coherence. And also we are very careful not to overburden those who are providing the data to us. This is true all the time, but in particular in this case, since, as I said, we are working on a voluntary basis. So we also try to improve what we are doing constantly, so we revise our practices constantly. And this also includes updates of metadata. We are now preparing so-called She Figures 2018, sorry. This, for the first time, we are not going to publish this in paper, but only in electronic format. However, for those nostalgic, we will have a paper leaflet coming out at the end of this year. And our expectation is the full publication, the electronic one that I mentioned, and the handbook with the methodology will be available electronically in March 2019. We will try to include some new indicators. This is still under discussion, so I cannot say much more, but as I said, we are always trying to improve and trying to make the publication more meaningful, more fit for purpose. We are also extracting information and data from other projects that we also found, like the MORI project that monitors the evolution and benefits of responsible research and innovation. I am also responsible in my unit for what we call responsible research and innovation that we consider has 5 main domains. Very quickly, these are education, science education, access to data and open access, public engagement, ethics, and very importantly, gender. So this project, MORI, has developed 36 indicators, of which 10 focus on gender equality. This project has carried out several surveys that include questions on gender equality plans, gender content in research, female heads of, gender of the heads of research performing organizations, and gender balance in recruitment committees. And they have also highlighted the links between the dimensions of research, responsible research and innovation, and gender equality in government structures, governmental structures. They have developed a complex series of data sets and have done a very big work in identifying like 4 types of countries, and here on the screen you will see one example of each like identified type. I'm not going to go into what these countries specifically have as performance, but just to say that the work is very in-depth work and very sophisticated, and is also not only data compilation but really a great deal of very good analysis. So you can get more information on Mori if you're interested on this address that is on the screen. And we are going to have a follow-up Mori 2 project. So we will be able to see over time evolution. Another project that is relevant for the purpose of data collection is the MORE project that we also fund in the European Commission. That is also a series of surveys on mobility and working conditions of researchers. And we all have three versions of it, and now we are in version 3. Which is updating and further developing the indicators that were developed by MORE 2. So they are identifying emerging policy needs for mobility, working conditions, and career paths. And basically, they have carried out a very broad service, two very broad services, one with researchers in the EU and EFTA, in higher education institutions, and one with researchers outside Europe. So this is basically what I wanted to show to you, and I hope that you get the message from here that not only the European Commission is collecting data together with many actors to whom we are very thankful, but the exercise is not straightforward, it's not a mechanical compilation, but it's extremely sophisticated and work-consuming exercise. Thank you very much.